Welcome once again, my friends, and thank you for stopping by to listen to an old storyteller. Today we have a story from North America, and the title of this story is The Baker's Dozen. Bas, which means boss, Wolsert Jan Petersen van Amsterdam kept a bake shop in Albany, and lives in history as the man who invented New Year cakes and makes gingerbread babies in the likeness of his own fat offspring. Good churchman though he was, the bane of his life was a fear of being bewitched, and perhaps it was to keep out evil spirits, who might make one last effort to gain the mastery over him, ere he turned the customary leaf with the incoming year, that he had primed himself with an extra glass of spirits on the last night of 1654. His sales had been brisk, and as he sat in his little shop, meditating comfortably on the gains he would make with his harmless rivals, the Knickerbockers, bakers of marbles, sent for their usual supply of olykoeks and mince pies on the morrow, he was startled by a sharp rap, and an ugly old woman entered. "Give me a dozen New Year's cookies," she cried in a shrill voice. "Well, then, you needn't speak so loud. Ain't teff, then." "A dozen!" she screamed. "Give me a dozen! Here are only 12. "Well, then, 12 is a dozen." "One more! I want a dozen." "Well, then, if you want another, go to the duivel and get it." Did the hag take him at his word? She left the shop, and from that time it seemed as if poor Wolsert was bewitched. Indeed, for his cakes were stolen. His bread was so light that it went up the chimney, when it was not so heavy that it fell through the oven. Invisible hands plucked bricks from that same oven and pelted him until he was blue. His wife became deaf, his children went unkempt, and his trade went elsewhere. Thrice the old woman reappeared, and each time was sent anew to the devil. But at last, in despair, the baker called on St. Nicholas to come and advise him. His call was answered with startling quickness, for, almost while he was making it, the venerable patron of Dutch feasts stood before him. The good soul advised the trembling man to be more generous in his dealings with his fellows, and after a lecture on charity he vanished, when, lo, the old woman was there in his place. She repeated her demand for one more cake, and Wolsert Jan Petersen, etc., gave it, whereupon she exclaimed, "The spell is broken, and from this time a dozen is 13. Taking from the counter a gingerbread effigy of St. Nicholas, she made the astonished Dutchman lay his hand upon it and swear to give more liberal measure in the future. So, until 13 new states arose from the ruins of the colonies, when the shrewd Yankees restored the original measure, 13 made a baker's dozen.
Thank you once again for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please press that like button. Also, please help an old storyteller out by subscribing to my channel. The next story will be posted in a few days, so until then, may your story continue to be a good one.